Hello grade 7s and welcome back. It is Thursday the 14th of May. Hope you've all had a great week, productive, and that you're still keeping positive and working your best. So this is the last video for the week, unfortunately, just because we are going through this new topic and I'd like you to focus on this topic over the weekend. And for this topic 8, functions and relationships, you will have the whole topic's exercises to complete today, tomorrow, Saturday, and then it is due for Monday. I will give you a breakdown of what is expected per exercise. So we are now going to be starting with term 3's work. I know we are jumping back just to topic 8, but this will cover some functions and relationships and allow us to work towards more of term 3's work. Right. So functions and relationships, topic 8, can be found in your Maths Platinum book on pages 104 to 109. Those are the definitions, the exercises, as well as the topic revision. But I will give you a breakdown of each exercise later on. Right. So when we look at functions and relationships, we're looking at number patterns and how one number relates to another number and what is the relationship between them. So if you remember last term, I spoke a little bit about having an input, a process, and an output. So this is where we look at our functions and relationships. And it's like baking a cake, right? If you remember my analogy, I said you have all your ingredients for your cake, which would be your input. And your process would be your method of how you would make your cake. So what do you mix with what? What ingredient do you put where? And how long do you bake your cake for in the oven? And then your output would be your wonderful cake at the end that you would decorate. Okay, so it forms a product at the end. All right, so I just need you to be reminded of some important definitions, and I'm going to go over them with you through this worksheet. You will also get a copy of this worksheet in the attachment for today. Right, so a constant is something that never changes. Okay, so for example, the number of sides of a quadrilateral. We know that a quadrilateral will always have 4 sides. Something else that won't change, the months of the year, January, February, March, April, all the way to December, those remain the same. Okay. A variable, however, is something that can change. So, for example, the temperature at 11 o'clock today will be different to the temperature that you might experience at 4 o'clock this afternoon. Okay, so that is something variable. It changes, fluctuates, either up or down. And an expression is a list of terms separated by a plus sign, a minus sign, a multiply sign, or a divide sign. So your operation signs. So an expression is a list of terms separated by your operation signs. Right. So we have the following to go through. Substitution of variables in equations. In algebra, so this is the big scary term that everyone freaks out about in grade 7, but please don't. It is based on grade 6 principles. It is basically where we need to find the unknown number in a number sentence. Okay? So instead of using our block over here like we used last year in grade 6, we now use letters. And those letters are called variables because they can change. Okay? We solve the variables by using a method called substitution. So if you think of the term substitution, substitution is when one thing replaces another thing. So think if you're on the netball court or on the soccer field and someone gets injured, they bring in a substitute. So they take your place. So the variable we solve by substitution. So here is an example. I have 7 plus x, which is my unknown. X is my unknown. I need to find out what x is. X can also be replaced by our box. But now in grade 7, like I said, we're stepping up a level. It's your first year in high school. We are now going to use x's and y's and a, b, z's, all of those. Right, so 7 plus something must give me 13. How do I find out what 13 is? I do the inverse operation. Because I added here, I must subtract from both sides. So I subtract 7. I move that 7 over to the other side, and it becomes 13 minus 7, which gives me 6. Okay, so therefore 7 plus 6 gives me 13. Or I can have this. If y is equal to x plus 8, determine the value of y if my x value is 7. So this basically reads, wherever I see x in this number sentence, I'm going to replace it with 7. So 7 plus 8 will give me an answer of 15. So my y value is 15. So that's just one way of how we can solve for equations and for methods of substitution. We also get flow diagrams. Here we have an input, a rule, which is our process. So what happens to the input to give me the output? The rule is the operation that you are told to follow in the flow diagram. The input is the value that you put into the flow diagram, and your output is the answer that you get once you have followed the rule. So for instance, I have my input of 8, and my rule is multiplied by 2 plus 5. Remember your BODMAS. So I'm going to say 8 times 2 is 16. 16 plus 5 gives me an output of 21. So that is how my flow diagram works. Then I get to a table form. Okay, and it is important to look at the rule that you have been given in order to fill in the unknown in the table. So here's my rule. Y equals 4x. What does 4x actually mean? It means 4 multiplied by x. Okay, whenever I have a number and a letter next to each other, without any operation in between, I know that I am multiplying them. Please take that down as a note. Okay? When I have 4 times x, I'm going to now look at my table and replace the x with any of these numbers up here to get my y answer. 4 times 1 gives me 4. 4 times 2 gives me 8. 4 times 7 gives me 28. And 4 times 21 gives me 84. So this is just a brief introduction to algebra and to finding the unknown variable and to see what your input, your rule, and your output is. Now with today's exercises, you need to do the following for me. Exercise 8.1 asks you to determine out of a list which things or which categories are constants or variables. So what changes, what doesn't, what remains the same. Okay, so all you have to do is give your answer. So 8.1 number 1a, it's a constant, or 1b is a variable. Okay, for exercise 8.2, this is how I would like you to set it out. You have this question as your first question. So 1172 minus your box equals 271. So now I need to take this 271 over to the other side. I do the inverse operation and I write it out like this. 1172 minus 271 gives me my unknown. So I know when I work this out, I get an answer of 901. You can test it by doing the calculation on your calculator. You could test 1172 subtract 901. I should end up with an answer of 271. So what I've said here on the side, you may use your calculator, but only to double check your answers. Please show your full calculations when you work this exercise out. Exercise 8.3, instead of the box, we have now used x's or y's. Same concept. 5 plus what, my unknown, is x, must give me 33. So I need to do the inverse operation to both sides. And I've got x equals 33 minus 5. And my unknown variable x, or my box, is 28. Again, you may use your calculator to double check your answers, but please show all your calculations step by step. Right. Then exercise 8.4 deals with our substitution. So it says y is equal to x plus 6, but only if x is equal to 3. So I need to replace x in this equation here with the number 3. So wherever I see x, I'm going to replace it with 3. So 3 plus 6 equals 9. That's how I would like you to set it out for me, step by step. Exercise 8.5, I'm going to show you on this attachment. Looks like this. You need to please draw these flow diagrams in your book, okay? And then you are going to say 2, so all these numbers here on the left-hand side are my input values. The operation inside the block is called the rule or the process. These answers over here on the right-hand side are called our output. Okay, so 2 plus 6 gives me 8. 4 plus 6 gives me 10. 6 plus 6 gives me 12. All right, and you'll do that for each number going forward for 8.5. You'll see that 8.5 goes on to page 107 as well. Then you've got exercise 8.6 to do. Exercise 8.6 is our table form, okay? So if y is equal to x plus 7, so this is my rule, I'm going to replace by substitution this number 1 or 2 or 3 or 16 or 83 with x. So the first one would be 1 plus 7 gives me an answer of 8. I'm going to fill in the 8 over there in the y. 2 plus 7 gives me 9. 3 plus 7 gives me 10, etc., etc. You need to do that for each table going forward. Please, again, redraw these tables in your workbook. It also goes on to page 108 at the top. Right, then exercise 8.7. It asks you to complete the pattern, okay? And you're going to see if you can try and develop a rule for this, all right? So in my pattern 1, I go to this pattern 1 and I count my number of matchsticks. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 matchsticks. So I put 5 over there. In pattern 2, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 matchsticks. Can you see I'm adding 4 matchsticks to each pattern? Okay, and by the 10th pattern, you'll have some answer over here because you've added 4 extra matchsticks to each one. Right, so please, you need to just redraw the table. You do not need to redraw your matchsticks. So that is the work that you have to complete for me in your workbooks, please, with the worksheet that I showed you in the beginning. I'm going to be sending a copy of it to you. I will, however, give you a copy when we return back to school. So please don't worry about printing this worksheet. I will supply you with one when we get back to school. So you're going to read over this worksheet. Please make sure you understand it. You are then going to do exercises 8.1 all the way through to exercise 8.7 and topic 8 on page 109, that topic revision. Please, it needs to be done at the back of your workbook. So that is a lot of work to keep you busy for today, for tomorrow, a little bit of Saturday. It must be done by Monday. I suggest you break it up. So do 8.1, 8.2, 8.3 perhaps today. Tomorrow, on Friday, you can do 8.4, 8.5, and 8.6. And then Saturday, you can finish off with exercise 8.7 and the topic revision. So do your best. I know you can do it. I hope this has really helped. Just explain a little bit. We will be going over this when we get back to class. So please don't stress too much if you feel overwhelmed and you feel like you're falling behind. But have a lovely weekend, and I will post another video for you on Monday. Have a great day. Goodbye.